Thousands of Arizonans have already joined Desert Financial, located inside the Payson Walmart.
Well, good Monday morning, 4 minutes past 10 o'clock, and we're already looking at 82 degrees in Payson right at the moment, so it's getting a little toasty quick, but more on weather here coming up in just a little bit. In the meantime, on today's Community Spotlight, we have a gal that's just a favorite I've had a chance to talk to over the years, and it's Buckshot Dot. She's coming in to talk a little bit about cowboy poetry, songs, and arts in the traditional style. She's going to be featured at the upcoming book festival here in Payson. We're going to tell you more about here in a little bit, but just to give you a little background, Buckshot has received the WMA Cowboy Poetry Book of the Year Award, the AWA Will Rogers Medallion Book Award, and the AWA Female Cowboy Poet of the Year Award. Boy, you've got that's quite a list of accomplishments.
Oh yes.
Now, we were talking before going on the air. You've actually been writing since a pretty early age.
Oh yeah. Well, my mother was a poet, and she had these wonderful collections of all the classic poets, and she read to me. Instead of nursery rhymes, I was being given Keats and Shelley and Percy and everybody else.
Wow.
All those wonderful poets of Wadsworth.
Very interesting. And the neat thing too is that in your upbringing, you were raised in some pretty remote areas.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm definitely a country girl.
Yeah, and so I mean, this writing was probably a much more of a pastime than perhaps some of the folks today that are on sensory overload in the cities and stuff like that. I mean,
Sure.
you had something fun to work on.
Yes, indeed. My mother wrote poetry on a little Remington portable typewriter.
Right. And now, just before going on the air, you recited a poem that you said you were how old when you?
Oh, my little poem, my first published poem when I was 9 years old.
When you were 9 years old.
Yes.
And can you repeat that?
Oh, let's see. Away in the distance I seem to see there an old man with flowing white hair. His beard is so long it touches his toes. If I were to paint him, he'd have a red nose. He does not talk nor gather a crowd, for this old man is only a cloud.
I love it.
It was fun.
And you were 9 years old.
Yes,
Wow, that's amazing. So there's been a few days have gone by since then, and you've been writing all this time.
Oh my goodness, yes. And during this COVID crisis, we were sequestered, we were tucked away, and so I knew that there were so many people. I have a husband, and so I had somebody with me, but there were lots of people who were all alone in those houses.
Right.
And so I had lots of friends that I was trying to cheer up. So I was writing these silly little poems. Every day I would turning out a poem.
Right.
Sometimes I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and I'd write until about 7.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, that's the one way to use up your time. Keep staying productive. Now, you're going to be featured. A lot of your work will be featured at the upcoming book festival. When is this book festival again?
It is next Saturday. That is the 10th of July at the casino right here in Payson.
And it's going to be not only you, but a lot of other authors there as well.
Oh my goodness, so many authors.
Yeah, I know. I lost count, but the last we looked, I mean, they had dozens and dozens.
There were 90 last. Let's see, we didn't have it last year, but in
Right.
2019, there were around 90. But they're expecting more now. I'm not sure.
Very interesting. And now, as far as when people come out, different authors will be presenting at different times of the day.
That's correct, in different rooms.
Right. And what time are you slated to?
2:30.
2:30, and where do you know where that?
I don't know which room, but they will let you know at the front of.
And that, of course, will be at the Matazel Hotel and Casino. And what's your subject this year?
Well, it's usually, as you know, Western cowboy stuff.
Yeah.
But I've done a lot of historical Arizona. I do a lot of history. But this year it's going to be all these COVID poems, just trying to cheer people up.
Oh man, and I think there's a lot of cheering up that to be had for sure. And so it's just a book of the different things that you've wrote during this whole COVID thing.
Yes, it is.
Wow, very interesting.
It's called A Glint of Light, which means we're hoping that it's almost over.
Right.
And I got that name from Peter Alshire. He wrote an article about me called A Glint of Light in the Darkness.
Oh, right.
And so, he's
and this COVID thing has certainly been a lot of darkness, and you're adding more glints of light. I like it. That makes sense. So, I mean, was that the intention when it came to writing these poems? Is just to try to shed some light on a dark subject?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I would get a response back, hey, I like that, or I chuckled, or once in a while even an LOL.
Right.
Loved it. That was all I needed, was just to keep me going.
Gotta love it, gotta love it. And one of the other things though too, I mean, you've done a lot of writing, but you also do a lot of music.
Well, yes, I
Yeah.
do when, I particularly like to do it with friends.
Right?
Yeah, like Chuck and Barbara Casey up there in Pine, they're gonna be with me at the festival.
Okay. So you don't typically do the music around enemies then? Terrible. So how long have you talked, you've been writing and been, published since you were 9. What about music? When did you pick that up?
Oh, my goodness, my mother and dad sang.
Uh-huh.
I have a poem about my dad. He was the 16th child, the youngest child of 16.
Wow.
And in the poem, it tells about all the junk he got, all the hand-me-downs,
Yeah?
but he never got his dad's treasured fiddle.
Oh boy.
And he should have, because he was just gloriously musical.
Right,
And they sang beautiful harmony, and my brother and I sang with my parents growing up.
right. I was the youngest of 5 and I thought I had a raw deal. Man, the youngest of 16.
We used
Those
to,
hand-me-down underwear had to have a lot of holes in them by then.
we used to sing and dance around. We lived in a one-room house on the Wallapai Reservation.
Wow.
And we would wind up the old phonograph and roll up the Navajo rugs and dance around.
Wow.
So,
What a beautiful memories that
oh
is.
yeah.
Yeah, and your father, was it? He worked for. He moved around a little bit around Arizona.
Yeah,
right?
Bureau of Indian Minutes, Bureau of Indian Affairs.
Oh right, BIA. Right.
Yeah. He was in Tonto Basin. I was down there when I was 2 years old.
Wow.
Up on the rim, he built the first paved road over the old General Cook Trail.
Right.
And so I've lived all over the state.
And you're talking about. You've got more perspective on this part of Arizona than anybody for the past century. I know you haven't been around for a century, but when you look at, as a young person, Tonto Basin was a whole bunch different than it is today.
Oh, sure, yeah. And the Petrified Forest, grew up at the Petrified Forest.
Wow, that had to be amazing.
Yeah.
So now, are you going to be performing any music this year at the book festival?
I will do a little bit of music because it was advertised in the newspaper wrong. It was given to them wrong because I'm not doing the cowboy thing this year.
Right.
I'm usually on right after Marshall Trimble, and we do, he's a friend of mine, and we usually do cowboy stuff.
Right.
But this year I'm going to do the COVID stuff. But I'm figuring some people will think they're going to get some cowboy stuff, so I will do a few songs.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
All right. So now, before I want to hear a little bit of the example of what you're talking about with the COVID stuff. Before we do that, for people that aren't familiar with your background, you've done a lot of other books that have to do with Arizona.
Yes.
And give us a Reader's Digest condensed version.
Well, now one of them is called Arizona Women, Weird, Wild, and Wonderful.
Oh, you know my family.
Oh, it was delightful to write. I loved that book. And then the other one is Arizona Herstory, Tales from Her Storied Past.
Oh, I like it.
So it's not just women.
Yeah. But still, I like the way you wordsmith. That's great.
Arizona is like a ship. She's always called she.
Right.
The states are always called she.
Sure, makes sense. Wow. And so, over a lot of years, you've been writing. How many books have you written?
Well, I've written 7, and this one we're hoping it gets published. There was a problem with it. It's too complicated to go into, but
Right.
we will try to have something ready, and then I will do the full book later, and if anybody wants to buy it, they can order it. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. And so now, give us an idea when it comes to some of the stuff in this. I think it's a wonderful idea trying to cast a little bit of light into the dark subject of this last year has been a pretty dark time with the whole COVID-19 thing for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Give us an idea of again some of these little glints of light into that dark subject.
All right, I'll do one called The Saga of Buckshot Dot.
All right.
Most of my friends call me Buckshot Dot. My husband is known as Old Buck. And although a shooter, I'm actually not. My name sounds to me like bad luck. It sounds like domestic violence, I tell him. Now listen to this. Buckshot Dot. Do you get it? He says, nah, there's nothing amiss. You say you're not a shooter. Well, you're sure a good hunter, that's so. 'Cause I am the buck that Buckshot Dot got. So I reckon that I ought to know.
I love it. I love it. That's a great one. And what a way with words you have. It's just got to be fun. You mentioned that with a lot of the stuff in this most recent bit of work, sometimes you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and all of a sudden have a little bit of inspiration and just get busy.
Not uncommon at all.
Right? Just out of the blue, out of the dark, I should say.
Usually I get up and I have a little flashlight and I have to write down a few lines and I try to go back to sleep. Then I get a few more lines.
Yeah,
Here I
right.
go. By morning
Your
I've
brain's
got
just
all these
racing.
little things scratched down.
Right.
And you know, where I finally go in and turn on the light and start putting it on the computer.
So, I mean, you don't really ever deal with that writer's block where you're sitting down and, okay, it's time to write and I got nothing.
No, I usually have something.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 or 3. Sometimes I'll have an idea during the night. Sometimes I don't even go to sleep at night.
Right.
There was several nights that I didn't go to sleep.
Well, I have known Buckshot Dot for a number of years, and I never got the Buckshot Dot thing before. I really like that, and I think I like it. I think I might be afraid of it too. But at any rate, give us another taste. Now, you also take some of these stories and put them to music too, right?
Oh, well, I haven't these yet.
Oh, okay.
But here's just a little example of one of the silly little things I wrote. I call them whimsies because somebody said those whimsical poems, and I thought, good, they're whimsies.
I like it.
It's called I Don't Bake. I don't bake, I don't make cakes or cookies or waffles or pies. I'll be happy to take them if you want to bake them. If I'm not allowed to advise, I don't bake. I don't bake cakes, for they always fall or they burn. Though I can't achieve them, I'm pleased to receive them, and I'll write you a verse in return. I might even write you a sonnet if I get the bees out of my bonnet. Though I don't know an ode from a toad in the road, I really can't bake. Doggone it.
I love it. That's outstanding work. If people are, I've talked to a few different people that have been listening to the weekly shows that we've been doing leading up to the book festival, and I've heard people expressing interest in talking to some of the authors because maybe they had a thought of writing something and they'd like to talk to someone who's actually done it.
Oh yes, I'm delighted to do that.
Right. Well,
I have a friend named Peggy, and she asked me if I would help her, and I said, sure, you write it, and I'll help you.
Wow, very interesting.
That's
So,
for you,
I
Peggy.
mean, a great chance to get some perspective from someone that's been doing this for a while.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Wow. Any kind of preview of what's to come next after this most recent COVID bit of work?
I haven't any idea. I mean, I just have to wait till it comes to me.
Right.
But,
Usually 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but this COVID thing has lasted far
Right.
too long.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's been I know for a lot of folks, it's been a really difficult time.
Extremely.
Some
Extremely.
financially, and I mean but it's been difficult. I mean, some people have been
Mhm.
stuck at home with family
That's
forever.
right. Yep. Mhm.
That can be.
And some of us, as I say, don't have family.
Right. And then they're stuck at home with themselves.
Yeah.
That can be even worse.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I got one about that, but I got a paper clip on other things here, so I can't just pick it out.
That's fine. Give us
But
another
it's
taste.
called Just Me,
Okay.
and it's about walking through the house and seeing nobody, just me, myself, and I.
Right.
And then the next one it says, and it's just I, myself, and me. And I look in the mirror and I say, good grief, it's just you again.
Well, and I laugh, but that's been
Yeah,
probably a
that's right.
stark reality for some folks for the
Yeah,
past year or
that's
so.
right.
So hopefully we're moving past that. Well, what are some of the other things that, as far as your little glimpse of light that you want to cast into this darkness of COVID? We got a couple minutes left. Give us another taste.
Okay. Sourdough Sam. No doubt you've heard of Sourdough Sam. Old Sourdough Sam is who I am. Old Sourdough Sam from Alabama. I bake good bread and I can good jam. Dutch oven biscuits and country ham. Whoa, what a breakfast of them two am. My job is strong just like I am, and that's the truth about Sourdough Sam. Old Sourdough Sam from Alabama, just an old camp cook and honest man. Now you may have heard that I'm on the lam, but that ain't so, and I swear by the, oh, pardon me for cussing, ma'am. Yeah, please excuse old Sourdough Sam. I suppose you think it's just flim flam. You wished I'd shut up like a clam. You'd like to hear the screen door slam. See you round, for it's done I am. I'm out of words that rhymes with Sourdough Sam.
I love it. That's great. Wildly creative stuff. I just think that's neat. And the fact that you have put some of this to music at times, I would imagine there's been some gatherings where you keep people laughing quite a bit.
Well, I hope so.
That's a good way to be. Nothing wrong with getting people to look at the brighter side of stuff.
All right. Well, I'll do a little bit of, for those who are expecting cowboy stuff.
Okay.
Up at the schoolhouse or down at the lodge, we tie our ponies right by that old Dodge that Pat and Juanita drove in from the ranch, out on the Milky to play for the dance. With fiddle and guitar we do it upright, then swap back and forth for the rest of the night. And I always thought those two should be blessed for bringing so much happiness. We'd sprinkle cornmeal all over the floor, dance every dance and be begging for more, with no thought of drinking or time for romance, just loving the world like an old cowboy dance. Dance to the buckaroo waltz, glide across the floor in the lamplight, sway while soft fiddles play. Who could forget those sweet nights? We danced the polka, the Varsuvian, Shadish's two-steps, La Raspa, then start all over again and end with the buckaroo waltz. We'd end with the buckaroo waltz.
I love it. Very good.
Well,
Now, as a kid, again, we talked about how you lived in some pretty remote parts of Arizona.
yes, in fact, that song is about growing up at the Petrified Forest.
Well, and I was kind of, that was leading me to the thought of, all right, so when maybe other folks would come around and you'd all get together for like just a real,
Oh, yeah.
major event,
yeah.
what was that like?
Oh, that was wonderful. We had one fellow that played guitar. He was one of Dad's workers
Mhm.
on the road, and Dow would come in, and it was such a joy to have an instrument because we didn't ever have one.
Right.
And so we would just sit around and sing until 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. That's why I finally found out that I'm allergic to coffee. It wasn't the coffee, it was because I couldn't sleep because we drank it until late.
That'll do it, yeah. Well, so but music, that was a big part of
Oh,
when you would get together at these social
absolutely.
gatherings
Yeah.
and stuff. There was always some music.
And even after my mother died and I lived with my grandparents in Flagstaff, everybody played the piano except me. I never had any music lessons.
Never had any music lessons. We've done pretty good for no lessons. And when did you first start writing? You've been writing stories since again, first time you were published, you were 9. And when did the music start for you?
Oh, I've done it all my life.
Really?
As I said, I sang.
Far
with
back
my
as you can remember.
parents. Yeah, oh yeah. I didn't learn the guitar until I was 18 because I went with a boy that played guitar and he taught me how to play the guitar. His name was Johnny. I went with 5 Johns, and the one I got now is number 5, but he's number 1 now.
Well, I'm not going to even touch that after the whole buckshot dot thing. I'm going to steer clear of all of it. I think this is amazing. So you've been doing music for quite a few years as well.
Oh yeah.
And now these days, where do you find yourself performing most?
Well, as I say, everything has been shut down for so long, but I still go to the Fiddle Jam at Pine.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the Pine Fiddle Jam is very important, so I hope people will try to get up there. It's the 3rd Wednesday of every month.
3rd Wednesday of every month.
It starts at 1 o'clock.
Get a lot of people up there for that?
Well, we hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just now starting again.
Right, and where do they meet?
At the Cultural Center,
Oh,
that's
right.
where the museum is,
Right.
where the senior center is.
3rd Thursday of every month.
3rd Wednesday,
3rd Wednesday of every month. At what time again?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. Very cool. We'll have to get up there for
And
that.
it's a good place to eat at the senior center, and then you can come on over just a couple of steps over to the music.
There you go. Now, with the upcoming, again, the whole book festival thing coming up this next weekend.
Yes.
Are you going to be there quite a bit of the day, or just for a short period of time?
Oh,
What's
from
your-
7:30 in the morning until about 8 at night.
So that's a pretty good chunk of the day. And again, there will be a chance for people to maybe ask you some questions about, hey, how do you do this, or what's your best way of getting inspiration for that? Those kind of questions. as well as, okay, say, well, let me just ask you right now, say you have a, what someone might think is just an amazing idea for a book. What do you do then? You got an amazing idea for a book, so then what?
Well, you carry a little notebook here in my shirt pocket, which I always have to have a shirt pocket, because
Right.
I gotta have my little notebook.
Right.
And a pencil, and I
And you
write
do,
it
you
down.
just
And
go
don't
right
ever use a pen. You
Right.
use an ever sharp pencil.
Okay, because you might need to erase
That's
something.
right, absolutely. And you can, so I carry that and I write things down. Quite often I'll have 3 or 4 ideas.
Now, is that because you changed something, or is that because you have to eliminate the evidence?
Because I can't remember what I wrote down.
I hear you. And again, your special time to be speaking at the book festival is what time again?
2:30.
2:30. And when people get to the book festival, again, this will be at the Matazel Hotel and Casino. You'll be able to very quickly figure out which room they have you in. And all that.
There'll be someone right at the front door.
Right.
And if they want to know about a particular performer, they will say, where's so-and-so? And they will say, right here. And
Right.
show you.
And you're going to have some books that are available for sale as well?
Well, I'm hoping, as I said, we had a problem with the book.
Yeah, with this one, but you got others, right?
Oh, yes, yeah. I have the 7 others.
Oh, wow. So, and you'll have copies of those available?
Yes, those are available.
Outstanding. So people need to, it's important that people, bring a heavy wallet, and you'll be happy to help lighten that for them.
See, there's a couple of just funny little cowboy stories, jokes
Okay.
in 2 of the books, and then there are 3 Arizona histories,
Wow.
different ones.
So, I mean, just solid history?
Yeah,
Oh, very interesting.
but
Okay.
it's all in poetry.
But all done in poetry?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I have one children's book called The Mystery of Little Nepo.
And what's that about?
Well, it's about Nepo, and I can't tell you what he is, because that's what the whole story is about.
Oh, okay.
Nepo is a little animal, and they end up in Oak Creek Canyon, Arizona, and nobody knows what this strange person is. And they say, "What is your name?" He says, "Nepo." "Is that Neep?" And he says, "Yeah, Nepo, like Sleepo or Creepo."
Right? There you go. Well, and so you're going to have to just get a hold of the book and find out for yourself as to...
Oh, it's I've been told by 2 5th grade teachers that it's excellent reading for middle readers. Middle readers are sometimes left out.
Right?
That's what I've been told by a librarian too.
Oh, okay.
That the very young child and then the teenagers, but the middle readers are the ones that, and both of those teachers that read it aloud to their students.
Outstanding. What did you, how did you support yourself throughout all these years?
Oh, I was a teacher.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of thought so.
See, I wanted to preach, but God got the message wrong and thought I said teach, so I did.
And where do you do most of your teaching?
Well, I started in Payson, Arizona,
Right?
Yeah.
And?
and oh goodness sakes, and well, I taught in Arkansas.
Oh, wow.
We've got gifted children in Arkansas Elementary, and in Payson I taught art, English, drama, and speech.
Wow.
And then
Now, what years would that have been?
well, 1977 is when we came back from Arkansas.
Right, okay.
So yeah, it was Arkansas first, yeah. And then, I don't remember, anyhow, in
long time ago.
1977 is when I taught in Payson. And then taught at South Mountain High School in Phoenix, and I taught American history and loved that. That was my favorite subject. Drama and Arizona history are my
Right.
favorite.
Arizona history is, Arizona's got some rich history.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's some pretty colorful stuff that can
Oh,
be
yeah.
kind of fun at times, too.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you're a little piece of that.
Uh-huh.
Buckshot Dot with us. And again, you're going to have a chance to check her out at the, again, book festival coming up this coming Saturday at the Matazel Hotel and Casino. And I think admission is free, right?
It is.
And you get a chance to talk to dozens and dozens of different authors, ask them questions, and maybe get some pointers about what you can do to, maybe unleash that writer inside of you. You can also find out more about Buckshot Dot by just going online to buckshotdot.com. I will never think of your name the same after finding out about Buckshot Dot. This could be a tragic tale. Anyway, Buckshot, thanks again for being with us this
Thank
morning.
you for Randy. Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in and listening this morning to Community Spotlight on KRIM. Going to get you back to more of your favorite music. Have some tunes coming up from Linda Ronstadt, Jimmy Buffett, ZZ Top, Atlanta Rhythm Section, and a whole bunch more. But first, a quick look at Rim Country weather.
This morning's KRIM weather forecast.
I knew later on that her younger brother was a very dear friend of mine, Michael.
Is that right?
He had a wonderful group, and he was every bit as good as she is.
Really?
In fact, I was in one group with him, and my banjo player said, "Why, Bill's got more more music in his whole body than Linda's got in her little finger. I said that.